Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everybody, wherever you're watching from and whatever time it is there. I can tell you with certainty it's 3 p.m. UK time, and it's a very hot one here where I am. I'm not sure what it's like where Ian is, but we do have a guest today. We have Mr. Ian Barnard, hand lettering expert, professional, legend really in the hand lettering space, and we'll be bringing him on here shortly. But before we do, if you can let me know in the comments where you're watching from, that would be great. We've got Rick from Tallahassee is here. We got Kathleen from NYC. Alex is here from UAR. Damon Miller from NYC, and he's from Tallahassee. So there you go. A small world, isn't it? Well, we got lots of comments here. Gary's here. Hello to you, Gary. Ran from Munich is here. And Holloway's here. Rodney's here from Bath, New York. In the Bath, or is that somewhere in New York? Deepak says hello. Hello to you. Bo from Ohio. Happily Letter After says good morning. Good morning to you. Mike from Kansas. Rick from Colorado. Carrie from Cleveland. Vintage motorcycle t-shirts from the UK. Wonderful. And Winsopedia from Nova Scotia, Canada. Lovely, lovely. Thank you all. Wow, they're coming in thick and fast. I don't think I'm going to be able to read them all, but I can see your faces. I can see your comments. Victoria, Mike, Ray. I can see you, Beth, Heather, Louisa. Wonderful. Thank you all for joining us here today. Like I say, we have a special guest with us, Mr. Ian Barnard, and we will be bringing him on here very, very soon. But before we do, a couple of housekeeping bits. If you can like and subscribe, that would be great. We are slaves to the algorithm. I personally hit 5,000 YouTube subscribers just yesterday, I think it was. So big thank you to all those new subscribers who have pushed me over that little landmark. That's very fun. But yeah, that'd be great if you can do that. This is an open platform here today. We're going to be taking questions. Ian's going to be has kindly agreed to answer your questions. So just keep them coming in the comments. Comments are open. You know, you can post any questions you like. If you want, you know, Ian to clarify something, if he used a brush and you wasn't sure what it was, or you want to know something like that, just go ahead and drop it in the comments, and I'll be monitoring those and asking Ian questions as we go through. And if you do want to follow along, you probably don't have time now. Actually, if you're quick, if you're really quick, and you want to follow along with Ian, then you can go to michaelessek.com/Ian. You can see the link up there as well. And there's two products specifically Ian's going to be using. There's his Freestyler brush set and the Letter and Grid Builder bundle. So if you don't have those already, I know some of us do, a lot of us do, but if you don't, you can go there, quickly grab them. Hopefully by the time you've installed them, we'll be able to get started. So yeah, if you have those, you might want to follow along, but they're both available at michaelessek.com/Ian. You can grab them there. That is all the housekeeping I've got to do. So let me just have a quick scan on the comments. Oh, a couple of people saying congrats. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Carrie and Freakazoid. And Wendy is here. Hello from Bramall, Cheshire. Lovely stuff. Yeah, it's just started raining here as well, actually. About 10 minutes ago, but it's very, very hot still. So I got the fan on full blast as well. Okay, so without further ado, let me bring on our guest here. If you don't know who he is, I'll get him to introduce himself. But Ian Barnard, really one of the OGs, I think, on lettering when it comes to lettering on Instagram and building a following and creating products that really help hand letterers. And obviously, I've got him on here today because me primarily being a t-shirt designer. Ian's particular style, his specific style that he uses and stuff, it really translates well for t-shirts. I think he's a great person to learn from. So if you're a designer and you want to kind of understand hand lettering and learn how to do it, then I think this is going to be a great session here for you today. So without further ado, please welcome to the stream, everybody, Mr. Ian Barnard.
Thank you, Michael. That's very kind of you. Hello, everybody. Good to see you all today. Yeah, so I'm Ian, and I do hand lettering, as Michael said, but I haven't always done hand lettering. It's been something I've been doing for the past 8 years. I'm now 42, so it's only been a small part of my life. But before then, I was a graphic designer for most of my career. up until the point I was magazine designer for a while, but then I decided to go freelance and go out on my own. But even then, I wasn't doing lettering. I was just doing sort of whatever I could get hold of, web-to-site design and logos and stuff like that. But but when I went freelance, that was also the time my second child was born. And rather than in the evenings when he was being fed by my wife, rather than either watching TV or going back on the computer, I decided to do a sort of a new hobby. So I decided on ClickFeet and working with a traditional like dip pen. So really, you had to have a lot of patience, which I don't normally, but for some reason I did with this because I was just enjoying it, and then got a bit obsessive with it and did it for the next 6 months every day without fail. And when you do something for a minimum of that, it can really sort of change your life. And over the next couple of years, I kept posting to Instagram because I needed a way to see if I was getting better, and that sort of grew a following. People liked seeing that, seeing someone going through that sort of training. It's quite satisfying to watch, like all these art Instagram feeds are, and then I started getting work from it. And through the years, I've worked for different companies. I've created products that helped other people, like products we're going to use today. And I've just sort of been on a journey where I've gone from being sort of a jack of all trades as a designer to being known for just one thing. But then when you get into that niche, it just sort of opens up into lots of different things. So, you go down like a sort of a funnel of like lettering, but then you've got like t-shirt design. That's a lot of lettering in that. Lettering, making fonts. I went into creating brushes, custom type for magazines or posters, stuff like that. So yeah, it's been that's like in a real nutshell how I got into lettering. So
it's very much like my journey. Really, I was a graphic designer, web designer for like 7 or 8 years, and then stumbled across t-shirt design and these places where you could sell your designs. And then and you do, like, I remember when I quit my full-time job to pursue t-shirt design stuff, I didn't think I would just be doing t-shirt. I thought, well, I'm going to keep doing some freelance stuff, and then maybe I'll build that up, and I'll do some web design, I'll do some this, I'll do some that. But that's never you can't really be good at all these things. You have to pick something to really dedicate yourself to. And it's really when I focused on t-shirts, like you focused on lettering, that I found, doing that for a couple of years, really throwing myself into it. Like you say, you might think, pursuing just this one thing, it's going to limit my options. But actually, it's the opposite, isn't it? Like once you're really good at something, all these new opportunities open up. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, people are always tying up, and there is a case that you can be a multidisciplinary designer where you do lots of things. But I think, sometimes people worry that if you're just going down one specific thing, there won't be enough work or there might not be enough customers. But it's just, there is really, and you don't have to have a massive audience to make it a living. But it does take a bit of time. But like I went to a talk and it was some guys who were doing the all this sort of setting design for Harry Potter.
Oh wow!
And one portion of that is, I think, what features a lot with the owls and how they get posted is the letters. Whether that's the map or potions or like just the writing on it. And a calligrapher had to be brought on, or someone that does lettering to write all those. And I was like, oh wow, if I'd known that I was younger, I would have gone. And I got into lettering, I would definitely have gone down the sort of like going into movies and the stage line, because that's so interesting, isn't it? Because you don't think about the stuff in movies, you just don't think when you're watching it. But actually, all that stuff has to be designed by someone or put together by someone. And even like there might be like a design for like a soccer team for a movie with a fictional soccer team in it. That all has to be designed and stuff like that. So. It's interesting where these niches can take you.
It's like super specialized stuff, but
Yeah,
Like that's where a lot of the fun stuff is, isn't it? We're getting lots of comments saying that apparently we look alike, which I hadn't considered before. But I
just need to get some lighter coloured glasses. And then
yeah, if I get darker ones, if I didn't have the beard that I've grown since like lockdown started, then
see, how old are you?
I'm 30. What am I? 36 this year, I think. Yeah, 36 this year.
See, I'm 42. If I was your age, I'd probably have a more ginger beard like yours.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
It's going grey now.
Yeah, it's like before and after, like 5 or 6 year difference.
This is what you're going to look like in
it's
7 years time.
It's like that face app or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, shall we? Let's introduce the concepts and the reason for this stream and kind of what we're going to do today. So yeah, the idea was that instead of just like talking about lettering or even, talking about tips and stuff, obviously it's a lot better to actually see some lettering in action. So that's what I thought we'd do. And what I thought I'd do was come up with a brief, come up with some ideas and let Ian have a go. So I'll just share with people kind of the process I've gone through here. I was thinking recently about, let me pull up my screen here a second, about, what kind of design concept could we do, what's coming up in seasons and stuff like that. So I was thinking about, we got Q4, we got Halloween, we got Christmas and stuff coming up. So I was trying to do some ideas about like Halloween or some ideas like that. So I've got this, some of you will be familiar with this already. I have a course called the Ideas Workshop. Part of that is this web app, which allows you to put in words and then like see ready-made phrases come to life. So one of the ones I did, I put in here the word pumpkin, and then I like scrolled down my list and I just kind of added, started a little collection of any phrases that jumped out at me. You can see we got like, do it for the pumpkin, day of the pumpkin, crazy pumpkin lady, all these kind of crazy ideas jump out at you. So I saved some and I showed these to Ian and said, do any of these jump out? Do you think any of these would work? So we had like permission to pumpkin, proud parent of a pumpkin, tested positive for pumpkin. But the one we landed on was peace, love, and pumpkins, which we thought was a good idea. So that was the brief, if you like. That was the idea. And then I kind of handed it over to Ian and let him kind of run with it. And then what I've done is I put together a little illustration of a pumpkin, which Ian's got. And then what he's going to do is basically take that and turn it into a finished design. So if it's okay with you, Ian, I'll hand over the screen to you and you can kind of take it from there.
Yeah, sure. So what really helped with this is one, that you came up, you used your idea generator to come up with the idea. So that is just, for me, sometimes the hardest part is coming up with what am I going to letter? And I think that all the people who do lettering is something fun hard. And also, I'm not the world's best illustrator. I can do minimal illustrations, but you've done a great job with producing the pumpkin for me, which gave me something to go on.
Yeah. I should say as well, the pumpkin that I used, I did use your brushes to do like the eyes for it, and I used your brushes to do the texture effect on it and the shading and everything. So this is all using Ian's freestyle brush pack to put together. Hey, there he is, the little.
So here he is. Dude. We need to give him a name, really, don't we?
Yeah, I could do with a name.
Funnily enough, my middle name is Michael, so we could have been Michael.
Like yeah. Maybe in the comments, some people have got some ideas for our little pumpkin character's name. But yeah, so with an idea like this, I mean, you start even before we can, or as I'd given you the idea, you already had like a few ideas of like the basic layout of how you do it. So is that usually how like ideas come to you, or you get a kind of idea in your head and then you immediately kind of visualize it?
Yeah. So normally it's like if someone gave me a phrase, I think I'd start sort of working out the layout in my head. Then I'd try it on a bit of paper, and then I realize that doesn't work, and then try something else. But for this one, because it's only like for the and, like what's great about the word and is that you can either use the three letters A and D, or you can have the ampersand, which is the symbol for and. So for this one, I thought actually what's quite well is that peace and love, or peace, love, and work really well on two lines, because peace is 5 letters, love is 4, and then plus the ampersand symbol make it work quite well. Yeah, so nice. I knew that those two were going to be, I think just off my head, I thought that was going to be as long as I could differentiate the and it wasn't looking the same. It was like love and like a weird word with a love and thing.
Yeah.
But then I knew that then pumpkins would be on its own, and whether it went above the pumpkin or below the pumpkin, I don't know. That was the thing.
Yeah.
So I did do a sketch on my pad.
Let's see if we can see.
Which had the top two bits I sort of knew.
Yeah,
and then that's my pumpkin illustration, which is not really good. And then I started doing the word pumpkin, and I was like, no, that's not really working. And I think I just went off and did like trying different words in the word pumpkin in sort of different ways and
different styles. Yeah. So do you often start with pencil and paper before you move on to the iPad?
So I like my process is always pencil and paper first, because I get distracted quite easily, whether that's by notifications coming in. I didn't turn those off, but or all the brushes that are available to me in Procreate. Sometimes for me, I just jump in and get a brush and then I start doing it. And whereas actually, if I'm on just a pad and paper, what I normally do is write out. So this is my process. I normally write out the quote just in capitals. No, don't do anything with it. Then I work out. This is a bit weird with this one because like the 3 words are all the main words, really. Pumpkins, I suppose, is a bit more special. But normally, if it's a bigger quote, I circle the words that are like the most prominent words that I'm going to be using. I need to give more focus to. And actually, what I do when I come to doing layouts is that I turn them into shapes. So like I draw a box around each of the words, so I know how big those are, and then I can start working it out. So, but like with this one, I sort of worked it out in my head already. But normally, I'll do a little. So for this, I sort of do like boxes where I think the words are, because otherwise I get too caught up in writing the words out. And with this, I can do multiple different layouts really quickly, without spending too long. Getting because what you want to do is start
in the way of it.
Yeah, you want to start off rough as possible, which is this is work out the layout that you think might work. Then you start filling it with the letters, but not adding anything to the letters, just the basic skeleton of the letters. And then once you've done that, then you can start adding a bit of detail. But my sketches never really come out of like the roughness stage, and so then I go into Procreate, normally take a photo maybe, or just have it beside me, and then I use it as my guide to then start constructing it in Procreate. And I normally use my the Builder bundle product of Letter Builder and Grid Builder to help me to get to the stage where I sort of left off on the notepad onto the iPad, because drawing each individual letter can take quite a while. So and trying to get the consistency, something you'll notice in this is that something I try and get right is the sort of consistent weight of the letters, and the consistent sort of height and width and stuff like that. So but let's get into it, because that's enough of me talking. I'm not, you're not seeing anything apart from my face at the moment. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is so I roughly know that what we're going to do is I'm going to write out the word piece. I want it to sort of be, with this sort of piece, I want the letters to sort of go up and down along the line of what they're on. So so I've created a new layer. I've got the bold version in the Letter Builder brushes. So these, if you've never seen these before, these are grids that give you guidelines to create any letter of the alphabet really quickly. So, and if you drag a line, you get a line of them, and then because we only need about 5. If you hold it down, you can then.
So you're literally just holding down the pencil and drawing a line there, right?
Yes, so drawing a line. And if you don't take your pencil off, you can then move the spacing around or up and down. And then if you put your finger on, you can then snap it to the horizontal. But because I want to move the letters around, I'm not going to worry about the spacing too much. So I'm going to make sure they're not touching. So I'm going to make it quite wide.
Okay. And
I'm going to do a letter on each layer, so then I can quickly move them around as well with that. So let's zoom in a bit so we can see what we're doing. So I normally choose a color that's not in our color palette. So so we've got you chose a color palette this time because you're better at colors than I am. So we've got Michael's one up there at the top, so that's our color palette. So I normally choose, when I'm putting these grids on, something that's not in the color palette, so that it sort of contrasts, so I can see where the grid is.
Okay.
I'm just gonna redo my letters because they're not straight yet. There we go. Okay, a new layer above those. And so I'm going to choose orange for the top ones. So, and I'm going to go to the freestyler pack. So the first brush I'm going to use, one of my favorites called Rock and Roller. The reason why it's my favorite is because I can construct letters really quickly with this. And so the letter's done and I can quickly move on to start adding the sort of fanciness to them, you know, what I feel the personality of that type should be. So what I do is just make sure that it's wide enough, what I want it. And then I can just quickly, there it goes. There's my letter P and I can start working that. So,
in two swift movements, And
then we've got my letter E. The thing is, I'm not very good at spelling, so I have to, while I'm drawing, I'm like, letter right. Letter A. And I normally go over the edge a bit as well if I'm drawing something like an A, because I want to tidy that up in a minute. So I'm just getting the sort of rough outline,
basics in,
letter. And I just realised I haven't been putting them on an extra layer. I said I'll do that in a minute.
Yeah, that's the mistake I make a lot as well.
I can do that now, so I can select letter E with the selection tool and then cut and paste, so it puts on the new layer, and do the same with these ones.
Okay, We've got a question here already from Nancy, if that's okay. I'll just pull this one up. It says, what pixel dimensions do you use in Procreate? Sometimes I'm not designing for a specific product, so a generic size that will print well has always been my question. So do you have like a canvas size that you normally use, or does it depend on the product?
So I normally use one that's 4,000 by 3,000 pixels. If I was doing, the thing is, it all depends on how big your iPad is, or how, because the thing is, the bigger the size of the canvas, the less layers you're going to get. And the layers are determined by how much RAM is in your iPad. And the more you spend on an iPad, the more RAM you get. So, but if I was doing something for print, I'd probably go about 5,000 by 4,000 pixels if you can. Otherwise, sticking to 4,000 by 3,000 pixels seems okay.
Cool. Yeah, I think I did this one so the normal kind of print on demand canvas for most t-shirts is 4,500 by 5,400, I think. So that's pretty similar to what you said. And if you're doing something even close to that, you know, it's going to be plenty big enough for printing.
Yeah, definitely. Because people are not like right up close. To the thing.
Exactly.
Like if you go up close to, like, you know, printed billboard stuff, it's terrible quality.
Oh yeah,
you're never actually that close to it. So
and the good thing about t-shirt design and stuff is, and your style as well, Ian, you know, the kind of style we do for this kind of design is, you know, even if you had to like take that and blow it up huge, you know, and vectorize it or something, you could do that pretty easily without losing much of the you know, detail, because the vector stuff these days, you know, you can do like live tracing and stuff in Illustrator. So there's always ways to, like, you know, translate it. We're not doing like watercolor paintings where, you know, you're going to lose a load of quality like a photograph. You can usually block stuff out, I've found, and vectorize things. So
definitely. There's always a way around it. So now I'm going to select a brush called Roughneck Taper, which has a bit of bumpiness to it. And also I want to select that as my eraser tool as well. And if you want to quickly have the same brush as an eraser as the one you're drawing with, you hold down onto the eraser tool for a few seconds. It will then make that exactly the same brush as the one you've been using, which is really handy, especially if you've the eraser's on some other folder. You don't have to go back through and find the one you were actually on. So what I'm going to do is just tidy up these on the right layer. Tidy up. Just tidying up these edges. Okay. Say tidying up, just making them a bit flatter where I've gone over the edges. And I normally just where there's hard edges as well, just softening everything up a little bit. And selecting right layer, just bringing them down a bit. The thing is with a t-shirt design, the homemade, handmade look is, I feel much better than everything being so crisp, unless that's what the look is going for. But
there's always different use cases and different design styles, isn't there? But in general, like the screen printed kind of look where, it's not going to be pixel perfect. It's not going to be, vector, completely smooth. I think that's the way I've worked. I've always used Photoshop. I've never really been much for vectors anyway. So I've always, even if I'm trying to keep things neat, things always have a slightly rough look to them. And certainly when you're doing hand lettering, that just kind of, it's a great way to communicate that. Like I said in my email earlier this week, if you get that kind of, you can tell that someone's done it by hand. You can tell there's been some attention given to it, and that's not something that you can communicate if you're just using a font all the time or whatever.
Like even though they can make fonts, really handmade. It's just so much about just doing it by yourself. Doing it with your own hand. Even if no one to notice, it's good.
Exactly. Even if it doesn't look as nice, in a way, but it has that kind of love and I don't know what's the human touch or something like that. We've got a question here from N Holloway. Says, do you plan to create a pack for Autodesk Sketchbook?
The problem with Autodesk Sketchbook I have is that on the iPad, because I mainly use the iPad, you can't import your own brushes into the app, and they're like picking themselves really. It's like why the only way you can do it is on the desktop, which you can get like Grid and Letter Builder. I've made them thing, but because I don't want to invest that time on something that's not gonna like one other app that I will do, which is on the iPad and on Android, because that's the thing people with Androids are really missing out, is Infinite Painter. So I want to try and get my brushes converted onto that, because that's like it's a bit like Procreate really. It's probably the closest Procreate app, but for Android. You can get it on the iPad if you want to try it, and it's free. I think it's free, or you subscribe to get bonus features. But that's probably the best alternative. I think at the moment. But then you've got all of the the thing is, not everyone can afford to get the Adobe app, so this one's a good alternative. So so I've done that, neatened them up a bit. I say neatened them up a bit. I just gone around, softened them a bit. And what I'm going to do now is actually I'm just going to add a little bit to the P here, just bring that out, just because I like making my P's a little bit different,
more interesting.
And actually I'm going to make it look, because with this sort of, I know pumpkinish, associated with end of October, Halloweeny, making it slightly like it's sort of torn on the letters. So I'm just going to add that on some of the letters. So I'm just roughly going in and out like that to make them look like maybe they're ripped or maybe torn. Or
it's almost like a paintbrush kind of effect.
Or paint,
swipes, that's cool. A question from Wellness and Workouts. Do you ever copy and paste, for example, the letter E in this instance, since it occurs twice?
I do, but the thing is, E's quite, for me, it's only a few strokes and the E's done. So
Yeah.
I don't want it to look exactly the same, because then it takes away a bit. So
yeah. If you really push for time, you might do, but
yeah. If you've got a letter that's got loads of them in, or you just want to get quickly to a stage where you've got them done, and then you're just going to alter it quite a bit, then do that.
Yeah.
It's about sort of saving time on the things that sort of, like, I like constructing letters, but I much prefer the bit on top where I'm giving them a bit of personality. So that's what there's a few reasons for Letterville. One of them is just so you can get to that stage quicker, and also keep the consistency of the letter as well at the same time.
Yeah, that's definitely what I've found it most helpful for is, if you're just trying to hand letter stuff without it, you just end up with, whether it's words that are far too long and you end up running out of space, or the one letter will be too thick and another one will be too thin. And it just allows you to get that consistency. And the difference is night and day. If you try and do it without, and then you try and do it with, it's like, what was I doing all this time? Trying to accurately line up letters. It does make it so much easier.
So what I've done now is just turned off Letterville, because I've drawn those letters, so I don't need that at the moment. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay one of the plain grid builder ones down. How do I want? Just a block. If I can remember where it is. Here it is. Because what I'm going to do is I just want to I'm going to alter the with all these sort of like bit joyful, bit sort of like maybe spooky, maybe that they're sort of like they have this sort of bouncy baseline. So what I'm going to do is just have one letter sort of up, and then one letter sort of going down, and then like that. So it's sort of jumping up and down.
Yeah.
Looks like. And then maybe just, I'm just using the transform tool, if you want to know. And I'll just maybe rotate them a little bit as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great tip. Just gives it an extra little bit of, personality that you, again, like you could obviously do this with a font. You could type out individual letters and turn them and stuff, but people don't think, when your default position is always to, just use fonts, you did just end up kind of just doing straight lettering, or maybe you put a little bit of a slant on the word, but you wouldn't usually take the time to like individually position the letters and stuff. And that's what really communicates that personality, isn't it?
Yeah. So what I do then is just I swipe to the right, and that just selects the layer, and now I'm just going to group them, so then I can move these up a bit, because I want to then work on the next set of letters. I'm going to actually, what I'm going to do before we do that is just going to add I'm happy with sort of the layout, so I'm going to just select a new layer, and I'm going to go back to the freestyler pack. I'm going to select one called breadcrumbs, which is creates. Let me just select color. Go for the dark purple. Just creates a line of dots, but what happens to them? They're all different size and shape, so it adds to that handmade stuff again. And what's good is that you don't then have to go. You can do it individually if you want, but what's going to happen is I can just draw them to save me some time again.
Yeah. And this is in the Freestyler brush pack as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I just quickly draw those.
And again,
And
just so
also,
people know, you're not, sorry, I was just going to say, you're not individually dotting these really quickly, are you? You're literally like drawing a line.
Yeah, drawing a line.
Exactly.
So that I don't have to, I can dot them if I want to, because in this middle bit, I might want it to go right to the end. So
right.
I'll do that, and actually let's get rid of that one. It's too close. Let me put a small one. Yeah, that's it. So in no time at all, you've got a piece that looks like really custom drawn and has some, sort of joyous element to it. And so that's our piece done. So now what we're going to do is the word love and, or the second part of that would be the and. So what I can do is just bring, say, what I'm going to do is bring up the letter grid as well again, because it's, 5 letters with the and, that is. I'm going to turn off our illustration just for a minute while we're doing this. So I'm just going to create another layer, choose one of my colors from the palette. And then what we're going to choose for this one is going to go for the roughneck taper, because we're going to keep that sort of inconsistent feel, slightly rough. And for this style, I'm going to choose a serif sort of style for this one. So what's good about this is obviously the main thing is block lettering it gives you, but you can use that to create a serif alphabet as well. So I'm going to create an L. I'm not using that brush I used in the other one because I want to create the serifs, which are quite thin.
Yeah, so this time you're not doing the big block lettering style. You're going for
but I can just draw the outlines and then drag the color swatch into it.
Great,
like so. And then I might want to add a little element to the edge of the L.
Yeah, nice.
You can do with this, you're not, when you're not restricted to a typeface, you can just do whatever you want, whatever you think.
Yeah, that's the great thing, isn't
it? And then actually, I'm going to create the same brush. I'm just going to knock out the sort of center like that.
Okay. So you've used the eraser there, right?
Yeah, so I just use the eraser. Actually, I put it more in the middle. I'm just erasing it because I just want the background to show through. You could just color it on the same color as the background, but then if you change the backgrounds, you've got to change the
which is important for t-shirts as well. So
that's
definitely best practice. Beth says, what brush was the dotted line? It was the breadcrumbs brush, right?
Yeah, it's just called breadcrumbs.
Breadcrumbs, which is in the Freestyler brush pack as well.
Yep. So now we're going to draw letter O. It'd probably be good to have a reference beside you for, even if it's something like, Times New Roman. It's a good basis to. It's just because I've been drawing letters for so long, I can draw them from memory.
Yeah, that's a good tip. So if you're not really sure, you want to hand letter a serif font, then you can pull up that font on your screen or whatever and just kind of do your best copy of it.
Yep. But you can draw it using that brush at the top and then just erase elements, to make certain parts thinner, certain parts thinner. Actually, with this one, I'm gonna erase sort of part of it here, and then get it sort of like I've done with that previous one, just sort of get it to sort of curl in.
Oh, nice. And just as a reminder to people who are just joining us, maybe this is the phrase that Ian is lettering is peace, love, and pumpkins. Nice bit of alliteration and nice little phrase. And
I just realised when you were going through the idea thing, it was pumpkin, the single one.
Well, I think I used that word just to start with, but yeah, I think it definitely works better. Peace, love, and pumpkins for ours. I think.
I suppose sharing the pumpkin love.
Yeah,
You need more than one.
you need more than one, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, and if you are just joining us, maybe you're not sure what you're watching. This is Ian Barnard hand lettering with Procreate on the iPad Pro, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Just because I know we get those questions quite a lot after this. Kira says the letter builder and grid builder are such a game changer. They are one of the best investments in your lettering journey that I know of.
Oh, so good to hear.
Yeah.
The thing is, I use it for everything I do. So I think when I think people see that it's not just I've made it just to make sales, it's actually something that fulfills a problem people have, which is drawing consistent letters, So
no, it's one of those tools where you look at it and you're like, this is why didn't someone think of it before,
Yeah.
But it's such a like Kira says, it's such a game changer, and it does allow you to, like I say, to stop relying so much on fonts and just to do everything yourself. And it's not, like you're demonstrating here. It doesn't have to take you hours and hours to put together a nice design. You can spend. I don't know, how quick you can work on something like this if you were left alone without questions all the time. But I imagine you're now pretty proficient at it. And
the thing is, it's about getting to. I find it getting to this stage, and I'm not having to do too much thinking in terms of the fact that I've already thought beforehand in the rough stage, and this stage is just sort of building the letters, which doesn't take much thought unless in terms of like even if you've got a reference, or I'm using the reference in my head, or I'm just using the standard letters, and then it's the creation point comes a little bit later when you're adding like dots to them, or this sort of like inline or whatever that may be. So
yeah.
So here, I'm just drawing the rough V shape. So with the serif alphabet, it's you're using the sort of left-hand part, which is like when you're going down, it's normally a heavier weight. When you're going up, it's a lighter weight. So if you were doing an A, it would be light going up and then heavy going down.
Question from Knight Industries: what iPad should you get to draw without lag?
So I haven't tested every iPad, but at the moment, I recommend sort of minimum one is the iPad Air, because it's a similar size and a similar shape, or the design is like identical to the smaller iPad Pro, and so you get the power you need and the RAM. You get a good screen. You get enough storage, or you pay for the storage, but it's a good price for what you need, especially if you're just starting out. Because I can afford an iPad because it's an expense for my business, whereas some other people who are just hobbyists, it's quite an outlay to buy one. So iPad Air is probably the way to go, or you can get a refurbed iPad Pro from the Apple Store for cheaper as well.
Or a used one. Like I'm using I still have my old 2018 one, I think it is, and I've never really had any lag on it. So
no, I didn't have a problem with like the first generation one I had that for ages, and it's only because I did I did a talk and a workshop with Apple, and they gave me an iPad instead of for participating and doing that for them, that I changed to the different one. So it was like the one I had was fine, but it just meant so so we're nearly done. Sorry, I know we're
no, it's awesome. Lots of people saying how much they're enjoying this, and happily letter after says absolutely love the O, love the stars and the style, so magical.
For this E, I was thinking of using the lowercase. The grid builder is mainly for the uppercase alphabet, because not all the lowercase alphabet is so varied. Like with the uppercase, they're all the same height, whereas the lowercase, there's mixed sizes and it's hard to fit them all in a grid. But you can use it if you want. So I'm going to draw a lowercase e of the serif alphabet. If I can remember how to draw it. It's just about balance, really, looking at your letters, making sure that both sides are, they've got weight equal up, or, that's why you have a reference, because it just helps to see that you're getting the bits in the right place.
Yeah, like you say, like if you've got a reference there and you can see, then you can still use the grid, obviously, can't you, to help you get those shapes in the right.
Yeah, and then because so I might make it a bit smaller, because the lowercase alphabet is a bit smaller than the uppercase alphabet, and so, but as I'm drawing it, so there's my love.
Nice.
I might just make that a little bit smaller. But what I'm going to do now is, again, I'll do the and in a minute, but what I'm going to do, select them, group them together so I can move them around. I'm going to bring my illustration back on and turn the letter builder grids off. But what I'm going to do is, I don't need the grid builder for this, because I'm going to sort of position it in conjunction with the illustration. So
okay.
So I'm going to move my letters around a little.
Happily letter after. Sorry, go on in.
No. Yeah.
Just a question. Happily letter after says, when you're using the grid builder, how would you do upper and lowercase letters to proportion? How would you?
I don't. The weird thing is, I don't normally. This is the first time I've used a lowercase letter, hand lettered piece. But I suppose there is probably a mathematical thing of how much allow, but it's usually, and that's when having a reference, if you type the word out,
have
a
you
reference,
you
can see, it's. It may be
you just
like
kind of do it. I imagine you do it by eye. Yeah, you do it by eye almost, don't you?
Yeah, 2/3 of what the uppercase alphabet is, I think. So
not too specific about it. Kira says, "What brush did you use for the shading on the pumpkin?" I can answer that question. It was because I did it. It was the spray can brush inside the Freestyler brush kits, which you can get at myclassic.com/Ian. I'll just put the overlay on a second. I just took it off so that we could see what Ian was doing in more detail. But yeah, if you want to check out the Freestyler brush set, you can find a link there. And I used the spray can brush to do the shading on the pumpkin. The whole of that pumpkin is using brushes from the Freestyler kit as well. So yeah. And a question from Wellness and Workout says, do you have a brush or eraser you like to roughen or create a distressed look for your letters? Well, you kind of did that already, didn't you, with the piece?
So most of mine, like, I don't have one that does the inside. It's more of like the outside. If I was going to have a roughened inner look, then I'd probably I've got one like this called Chalk Dust, which I then just use like a chalk pencil to just draw the letter out. So I might draw using that brush, which I did piece in, and then I'd fade that down, like lower the transparency and put a new layer on top. And then I'd go over it with a texture brush, like a chalk brush, and just so it gets all that, or shading it and gets all that look from that. But that's something I've been wanting to work on, is a brush set that adds sort of some sort of texture to my letters. So okay, I'm gonna put the illustration above the words so they go behind, like that. So, and doesn't matter there's a bit of space, because I can actually, what I've failed to do on the letter P is just add some bumpiness to it. Bring it down a bit. But I'll add some filler bits wherever there's like a big bit of space, whether it's below or above the L. And then we just need to do the and now. So I'll bring up the letter builder grid. add a new layer. Do the ampersand. So for this, I think we are going to do a purple, I think, to distinguish between the orange of the piece and the cream of the love. And I'm going to use this time, I'm going to use one called High Five, which is similar to the rock and roller one, which is the one we used in Peace, but it has slightly smoother. Just check the size. So for this, I normally do it. So I start at the top of the middle, and I go do like it looks like a walking stick.
Yeah. Or candy cane.
Yeah, candy cane. That's the one. And then I sort of join that over, which looks like a P falling over. And then I do like a U shape, and then come out the other side. Give my hand. Could do with a bit of refining. If I want to do that, then I'd use one called Sloppy Joe, which is less textured than the roughneck one. Just to sort of, again, sort of smooth off these hard edges. And then what I'm going to do is try and make it look like they're doing. The problem is it's a bit wide, so it's more of a like a, was it rock on piece, but you know, it has that sort of
thing,
metal, that vibe to it.
Yeah, that's nice.
And do I do it at the bottom as well? So let's see what it's like. There we go. So it's all
two arms,
So I turn off now I've drawn it, I can turn off the letter builder, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it look I'm going to add some shadow to it by just erasing. So this is a technique. It's sort of like it's like a fake shadow by just, so what I'm going to do is, so I want this bit here to look like it's overlapping the curvy bit. So I draw a line and then just curve off that. I need to use the same brush as eraser. So I cut that bit off, and then I smooth round the edge there, and it just looks like it's being overlapped.
Yeah, just
like it looks like a dark shadow, but all you're doing is just erasing it, really. And then I'll do another one here.
Nice.
Like that.
And again, of course, because you're doing that with the eraser, it's going to show through the background color. So this would be great for, printing on different color T-shirts. It's going to be fine
definitely.
On a it's going to be fine on a black. It's not, you've not drawn the shadow on anything. You've just cut it out of what's already there. So,
and it only really works on dark colors. If you do it the other way, then the shadow would be lighter than the
exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true.
And now I'm just going to add and make it give it a bit more dimension to it. Created a new layer, same sort of brush. I'm just going to do some highlights. So my light's sort of coming from top right direction, so my highlights will be that way too.
Yeah, so it's really going to jump out now, isn't it? I'll take a few questions here while you're just doing that one, if that's okay. What do we got? Megan, concern using fonts as lettering reference for copyright. I tried to do my own version without tracing. Okay, so I think Megan's basically asking, is there any issues with like copyright if you are using someone's fonts as a reference? I would. You go ahead.
Yeah, that's one of those grey areas, isn't it? But the thing is, what you're looking at is just creating the basic structure. So, like, using something like Times New Roman is fine because you got it on most computers for free anyway. So you're just, it's not different from using it in something
in
like
a
you were
design.
doing you could use that same typeface on a T-shirt and sell it. So it's the same sort of thing.
Exactly.
So, sticking to stuff that you've got on the computer, but all you're using it for is just to help you to construct the basic letters. Like for me, I don't use it anymore because I know how to, you know, draw them, and then I can just make it my own by not having that reference, but having it in my memory.
Yeah,
because then it will definitely not come out exactly the same. It's just you're using it for a guide, really.
Exactly.
And so using ones that you get free on your computer.
No, I don't think it would be ever be an issue with something like that, using it as a reference. I think the only point would be if you're like trying to take a font that you've not paid for and you're basically trying to trace it or whatever.
Yeah,
that would be
that's
the only situation where you're in hot water. But that's different from what we're talking about, isn't it? So
you could, like, the other thing would be tracing it and then turning it into a font and then selling it would then be but
it's obviously bad.
But because obviously you'd have the font if you paid for it. We recommend paying for fonts unless they're given away for free on a genuine site. Otherwise, okay, so on to the pumpkins now. Sorry, it's already been 55 minutes.
I know. Sorry, we're slowing you down with too many questions. So
no, it's fine. So what we're going to do now is create a new layer of grids, because what I also do, what I forgot to mention, is that I calculate how many letters are in the word and have a note of that next to like in my little roughs. So then when I come to doing the letter grids, I'm not like, I like draw them out and I'm counting as I'm going, like PUM, and then I like the problem is I'm too slow and it turns into a line and I can't draw anymore. So for this one, because we are needing 1, 2, 3, I don't remember now. I did have it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it's 8. Yep.
I'm going to use the condensed one because looking at the top, we see that 5 just about fits in there. So we're going to draw 8 across 3, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, 4. No, yeah, I've got 8.
Yep, got it. Yep. The mind plays tricks.
Yeah, it does. There we go. And again, I'm going to draw these out first in a basic style using that rock and roller pen, the brush, because that's one that helps me to get it up as quick as possible. And this is only just like 3 brushes you use, that whole pack, and there are other brushes in there that create a whole 3D style as well. But just for this one, I thought it worked better for.
You're right. We've not even touched on a lot of the other brushes, of course, but there's a lot in there. If people go and check out on michaelessek.com/Ian, they can see all the different styles you've got there and stuff. And I know you've done, videos and stuff on your YouTube channel walking through some of the other stuff, so they can go and avail themselves of that as well.
So there's 2 letters in the alphabet that we couldn't fit, because this is the product by me and Stefan Koons. We did this together, and we wanted to keep the integrity of 2 of the letters, which are the widest letters in the alphabet, which are M and W. So we're doing an M now, and rather than trying to squeeze it into in one of the styles, you can, because it's the style, it fits in the grid. But for a lot of them, you have to draw half the letter, then just copy and flip it. So you don't end up with a really squashed M or a really squashed W, because that looks quite painful. Yeah, I find it looks quite painful if someone's tried to squeeze it into the same shape as into the same size as what the U and the P. Yeah. So what I normally do is draw one of the uprights, and then I draw part of the diagonal stroke, and then what I do is select it using the selection tool, swipe down with 3 fingers, and then I do copy, swipe down again, and paste, and I'll put it onto another layer, and then I flip it, so I'm in the transform thing again, and I click flip horizontal, and that just flips it for me, and then I can put it and make it as wide or as narrow as I want.
Nice.
So that will do. And then what I do is just raise that part, go to the other layer, raise that part, and then I join them together. So I normally squeeze it together with my fingers, but you can just click on it and click merge down. Okay. So that's our M done. Right. And it's the same way you do the W, just do the 2, half the letter and flip it.
Yeah.
And then I'll just move it over a little bit so it's not so close to the P. And then draw my next P. See, because it's so easy to draw those letters, it's quicker drawing it than it is duplicating the other
Copy
ones.
and pasting the yeah. Absolutely.
Just making sure I remember how to spell it.
Yeah. Kins. Got another couple of questions there. Callum says, do you use any tools to help with picking your colours?
No, that's that's why I got here. I got Michael to.
Yeah. For this one, I actually I know you're not supposed to like steal stuff from other artists, but I do feel a little less guilty about stealing color palettes sometimes from people, because when you see a great color palette, it's just like, oh, that's really nice, and I don't feel too bad about nicking the colors. So I think I found an illustration somewhere. I just thought, oh, those are nice colors that would work well for this. And then of course you can vary the colors and make them a bit more saturated or reduce them a bit depending on what your use case is. But that is one of my favorite ways, is just anytime I see a nice design that I really like the colors for, I'll just save it in a folder, and then when I need some color inspiration, I'll just go and have a look in that folder and see if there's anything I can cheekily steal without anyone finding out.
Yeah, I've got a Pinterest board just full of color palettes, just to, for when I do struggle with colors.
Yeah.
And if you look on my feed, they're mainly grey and orange. Like
you stick with what you know.
Yeah. So okay, so for this one, before I actually, let me sort out the layout first, then I'll show you an effect we're going to use in Procreate to give it some wobbliness, like some like Scooby-Doo,
okay,
happy thing. So as we can see, the spacing is quite off on this. But that's fine because we're going to sort that out. And actually, if they're all on the same layer, we can click add at the bottom here, and then we can select another letter, and then we can do all the opposing letters, so we can bring them up all at the same time.
Okay.
And now there we go. We can.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Like that, and then we can go through and adjust the spacing. I should have done them all on one layer again, on separate layers again, but I keep forgetting.
Yeah.
And spacing is something that you just have to practice at, really. It's just looking at, because the letters that are the ones to struggle with are like when you've got a T and an A together. If you let the computer do it in terms of stuff, it always off, unless it's a font and it's been done properly. But what you're looking for is just to make sure I think it's quite easy with this one, because most of the letters have sort of got a straight line down the side, which makes it easier lining them up. But you're just trying to balance out, and sometimes actually turning your work upside down helps to see whether something is aligned or the spacing's right.
Yeah.
So okay, there's our pumpkins. Let's bring this here, right?
Nice.
And so what we're going to do with this is we are going to go into the effects panel, or adjustments, which is also the effects panel, because we want to select liquefy at the bottom there. We don't want it very big, so sort of 15 to 20% on sort of the size, pressure like 25%, distortion 0, momentum 20. That's not hard and fast. This depends on the size you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
But with that done, what we can do is then we are going to wobble, sort of go zigzag the outside. So this is like more drastic than we've been doing on the rest of it, but it gives that sort of like wobbly, spooky effect. So and you can adjust those settings at the bottom, so it automatically looks much better like that.
Oh yeah, it just looks like it looks like a proper I was going to say proper font, but you know, it looks like a professional like vector effect almost, isn't it?
Yeah. So just doing that over the whole of the piece, rather than drawing, trying to consistently draw wobbly lines like that would be quite tricky.
Yeah,
so the
yeah,
liquify tool just does it for you, really.
that's awesome.
And if you get to the end and you don't like it, you can just reset it, I think. But
That's
there
great.
you go, nearly done.
Kira says she didn't know about the M in the letter builder. She knew about the W. So thanks for sharing that tip.
Yeah. There is, if you look inside the downloads, a guide to how to draw every single letter in every single style, and it will show the M, or that part of the M to draw. So, and if you go onto Stefan Kuhn's YouTube channel, it's got he's there drawing every single letter as well. So if that helps.
Yeah.
Okay, there we've got our pumpkins, and what we're going to do with that, we're just going to add a little gradient using the spray can tool and the orange, and we're going to run drawing on the actual type itself in case we change our mind about the color or whether we like it or not. We are going to click on that layer and click clipping mask, which means anything we do in that layer will be restricted to being on the pumpkins layer. So now if I draw over it, it's a bit small. There we go.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's a great effect, and it just just makes it pop a little bit nicer, doesn't it?
Yeah. And actually, I might. So if I wanted to change that color, I swipe with 2 fingers or click alpha lock, and I say, actually, I want the darker orange. I can select the darker orange and then click fill layer, and that will just fill it with that darker orange if I wanted it to. So
nice, yeah.
In case you didn't know I had that. And then last thing I do for that type is select. I'll select the dark purple, and I'm going to select the roughneck mono. Just check the size. I'm going to select a new layer below, and what I'm going to do is just go a bit smaller. I'm just going to go around this right and bottom of letters, just making a sort of shadow.
Yeah.
And again, you don't have to be super neat.
And again, that's just making it pop out a little bit more, and you're getting getting your colors in there and mixing things up. So it's a great
effect. Adding a little bit of depth, because sometimes it needs that to emphasize the words that you're using.
Yeah, and you've obviously you had that in mind, didn't you? Because you've got peace, love, and then you've given that attention to love to make it look a certain way, and then obviously we've kind of got a bit more going on with pumpkins to make it stand out more. So so almost, I mean, you didn't really talk about that, but I guess it's kind of a subconscious thing now for you, as you do think about emphasizing the words as you're lettering them.
Yeah, so it's just and that's why I wanted to make this brush back, because it has I could use a dotted line inside, or I could use the dotted line around the outside, or I could use a spray can to make that sort of gradient, or I could fill it with stars, or just erase it, or make it look like the ampersand, which is slightly bubbly looking. You can create lots of, because 3 of these pieces, so peace and pumpkins, all have the same brush or similar brush together, but then it's what you add on top that makes them look like they're standing out on their own.
That's the finishing touches, isn't it, that make the difference?
So group that. I'm going to bring it up a bit. Actually, let's bring pumpkins above the pumpkin. And so the last thing we're going to do is just add some bits around it to fill the sort of areas to the sort of left and right of the pumpkin and stuff like that. So what we're going to start off with is add a new layer, some stars. So there's one called Superstar at the bottom. I'm going to make them different colors, but first of all, I'm just going to make them purple because it's easier to then color them afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what happens is every time you do one, they are slightly different sizes.
Yeah,
a bit like the breadcrumbs one.
I love this brush. It's one of my favorite ones too. I've been using it so much just because it's, I used it on the owl design that I did on Design Cuts a few weeks ago, and it's just, like you say, it's just so much fun and so much easier than having to draw each one or, do a copy of one and resize them. It just kind of comes naturally to just, fill in the space. So,
yeah. So let's see, is that enough? It's trying not to. It's just trying to have a few rather than going overboard.
Yeah.
And then what I do is normally I'd select the orange or a contrasting color, and then selecting a new layer and clicking on clipping mask in case I want to change them, and then I just change brush rather than having a star again. But then I can just color over
right
where I want to have some different colored stars.
Yeah, it just makes it pop out nicely, doesn't it? And it's always that color balance thing. Like you've got the orange on the top, you've got the orange on the bottom now, the same orange. So that's a nice balance. And then, just purples and oranges just dotted around. It just ties it all together.
And now I only want a few. Sometimes I use one called confetti, which will give a load of them around it, but we haven't got lots of space. So I use breadcrumb ones again because create a new layer because it gives me a variety of sizes again. I just randomly tap.
Awesome. It's like magic before your very eyes, isn't it? There's lots of people very impressed here. Violet says this is too freaking cool. Essek says a stunning piece. Happily Letter After says love all the styles. N. Holloway says Sensei, we are not worthy. Damon says this looks so good. So yeah, lots of impressed comments here.
And I'm just going to change a few of them to orange. I know they're all orange. I mean to purple.
Purple, yeah. Yeah, we have gone. Oh wow, we've gone over by 10 minutes already. So
terribly sorry.
No, are you kidding? No, I want to apologise to you for slowing you down.
No, and I think that's it. Have we forgotten anything? Or?
No, that is. I think it's a great looking piece. I think this is a great example of, we've got a pretty simple concept, but one that works nicely. Peace, love, and pumpkins came up with that phrase. And then you've turned it into this, we've got a nice simple illustration that works well. This design or this concept, it could work on T-shirts, could work on, I don't know if people really do greetings cards for Halloween, but, you could see it on a card, you could see it on things in stores or whatever, or, advertising campaigns or whatever. It just looks, totally professional, totally neat and tidy and has lots of applications as well. I think it could be someone who's really into Halloween, or it might be someone who's just really into pumpkins, or so yeah, it looks really awesome. So thank you so much for your dedication and
that's right, you're welcome,
completing it all for us live. It's awesome. And let's remind everyone. I know everyone will want to thank Ian, and I think we probably run out of time for too many questions now, but yeah, Ian was using the Freestyler brush pack for all the brushes that he used. I used the Freestyler brush pack to do the illustration as well. So this is all done completely with the Freestyler brushes. And of course, you saw Ian do the lettering using his grid builder and letter builder packs, which you can find at michaelessek.com/Ian. And these are tools that, as you can see, speeds up your work. You'd be crazy to try and do hand lettering without them. And there's an awful lot of, extra bits and bobs you can see, like the stars and the dots and stuff that just add those extra flourishes. So well worth adding to your collection if you haven't already. So a couple of, I don't think we really have too many time for questions, really, because we've already taken up so much of your time. But let's just have a quick glance through the comments. Bo says it looks amazing. Halloween birthdays, says Violet, is one thing that people don't think about. So yeah, if you've got a birthday on Halloween, you might want a Halloween themed birthday card, and that works nicely for that. Lots of thank yous in the comments, Ian. Thanks from Heather. Damon was asking there, I just lost his comment. Do you have classes? Do you have any classes?
I only have one short one on Skillshare at the moment, just about script lettering. The thing is, I only work well when someone else is leading me, like Michael was doing this. So I do have my YouTube channel as well, which is just youtube.com/Ian Barnard. That I'm trying to do more tutorials on it with my brushes and stuff like that. So
yeah, and of course your Instagram, where you might not have formal classes, but you're showing people exactly how you walk through the process of coming up with these designs that you do all the time. So
yeah,
so make sure
and there's loads of PDF instructions available with the pack as well to show you how to draw like 3D letters or add certain effects and use some of the sort of more advanced brushes in it. So hopefully there's enough there to get you started, to get you working with it. So with my brush sets, I always try to bring something that you can make something with it, rather than just being 1,000 brushes for $20. It's, here's a set that can give you this, like this Peace, Love and Pumpkins one, just from that set. And you only used, 4 or 5 brushes. So, the scope you can build with it is just sort of never ending. So hopefully you can, people can create a massive t-shirts with just one pack of brushes. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can. Absolutely. As we've seen today. And just to reiterate what you were saying there, like, you don't just, when you get the brush pack, you're not just getting, these are the files and off you go and good luck. Ian's included all these PDF tutorials to walk you through stuff. So he's not leaving you there just to figure it out by yourself. So yeah, you get almost a full education there with all that stuff as well. So yeah, we got, let me just pull up the slide again. So the Freestyler brush pack, that's this one here with all the brushes that you use, and the letter and grid builder bundle. That's what you were using to lay out the letters and the shapes and everything to follow. And absolutely essential tools if you're trying to do hand lettering. So I think we've taken way too much of your time, Ian, but you were very kind to put that together for us. Lots of thank yous in the comments. I know people are very thankful for you spending your time with us here today. Too many comments to read out, really, but yeah, so I'll leave it to me. I'll say thank you to you for coming on and for putting together this great design. Where has it gone? Let me bring it back to the stream so we can have one last look at it.
I always like to be pushed, because I don't know how people have found the lockdown. Like, my creativity has been up and down, and so and this was really good to work on. Actually, really got me out of like a bit of a creative block and stuff like that. So
awesome, yeah. Sometimes you just need the right kind of concept or something, or someone to bring something new to the table, isn't it?
And it wasn't a blank design. It may be the case that you get a creative friend to do something, like you did you came up with a phrase and did a small illustration. And sometimes the hardest thing for an artist is a blank sheet of paper. And so having something to go on, I didn't have to do too much thinking. You'd done the color palette, the illustration, and provided the words. All I had to do was make the letters look nice.
Doing yourself down.
I think you should take more of the credit than I do.
I was thinking, looking at it, that the only thing that lets it down a bit is the illustration. And if I would have spent a bit more time on it, it might look a bit neater. But anyway, I think fine. It does look fine. I was just like, looking at all the detail you put into the letters, and then. But anyway, no, it's a great piece. I really like it, and lots of others do too. So So yeah, thanks so much for coming on today. We don't want to keep you any longer than we have to, but let me just reiterate again, michaelessek.com/Ian is where you can find the links to the products. If you've got comments, questions, drop them in on YouTube underneath, and I'll answer some questions later on tonight, this evening when I get home. But yeah, make sure you go and follow Ian on Instagram, on his YouTube channel. You also have, and I've got a link to this at michaelessek.com/Ian, but there's, I think it's 5 free products they can get when they join your newsletter.
Yeah, just some Procreate products that you can you get, just signing up for the newsletter, you get 5 free products. So yeah, to check out and use. So
yeah. So go and find that link and sign up there. Join all the things, because as you can see, Ian's very generous with his, with his time, with his expertise. He's sharing all the time on Instagram and stuff. So you want to make sure you go and follow him on all the places. But without dragging this on too much longer, I will say thank you to Ian. Thank you all for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it today. Hope you got something out of it. I'll be back next week, so keep an eye on your email address. Keep an eye on your emails for more from me for what we're doing next week. Do like and subscribe, of course. Share this video with someone who might get something out of it. And we'll talk to you soon. So thanks to Ian, and we'll see everyone soon.
See you later.
Bye-bye.